In between projects, we usually work on improving a skill or focus on one of our elements or principles of art. So after a value drawing, we are focusing on proportion. Proportion is the size, relationship of parts to a whole and to one another. And we're going to be looking at human body proportion and specifically facial proportion. So everyone is going to get one of these packets. It's going to focus on facial proportion. You're going to get a chance to draw and practice those proportions, as well as look at individual facial features and how we can represent them with value and shading so that they are correct. You'll notice that at the top of these papers, it's got a topic here, practice, sketches, and planning. So where we can put those in our binder is behind the sketches and planning materials. Again, in those clips so that we can turn them in and easily find them. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is you're looking at drawing the overall face first. And the thing about the human face and many other faces that we see out in the world is that we have symmetry, meaning that if we drew a line down the center, the left is very similar or a mirror image of that. When we're looking at finding where the facial features are, and this is pretty true for just about almost anything, is that the eyes are going to be about halfway. This is hard for some people because sometimes we're used to setting them higher because we're like, there's, maybe the forehead's not that big, or we have hair that comes into play. But that is like the tip top of the head. All right, just like down here, we've got the tip top of his. So there's going to be hair and then a forehead, and then our eyes are going to sit right in the middle. If we're looking then to find the placement of the nose, we're going to look from the eye line and compare it to the bottom of the chin, and the nose is going to be about halfway. Then if we look at placing the mouth, we're going to look at the bottom of the nose, compare it to the chin, and the lips are going to sit about halfway in between there. When we're ready to start putting the eyes in to place, then we're going to look at the space that's in between. The space that's in between the two eyes from corner to corner is about 1 eye length wide. And if we look at how wide a face is, it's about 5 eyes wide. So if you're ever looking for getting the correct width of a face, I can take a measurement of an eye that I'm drawing and then take that 5 times across. When we're looking at then placing the nose, we're looking at how wide is it. If you look at a human face, the nose is about as wide as the corner of the eye. So you can bring a line straight down and that gives you the corner of the nose. If we then look at placing the lips in there, again, they're sitting right about on that line, about the center of the lips is, and then you've got the 2 pieces that create the upper lip. If we need to know how wide those lips are, if you come down from the center of the eye or somewhere pretty close to the middle, you're going to notice that that is where the corner of those lips are. And when we're looking at then adding on our other facial features, your ears start at about the eye line, and then they come down to about the bottom of the nose. Again, every human figure can be a little bit different, but for creating a generic kind of version of a face and where those facial features should fall, they're somewhere very close to that. And then of course we're looking at hairline and hairstyle, and that gets added in. If you're looking at placing the neck of a person, make sure that you don't give it a teeny tiny baby neck. This happens sometimes. You have to make sure that we can support that bowling ball of a head that we have, and it's going to come out and brace itself usually right below the ears and curve out. This is a great version to show you kind of where your eye line sits, especially if a facial feature is turned. You're going to see the bottom of the ear to the nose, and the top of that is going to go to about the eyebrow eye line, and the beginning of the ear, all right, when we look at it here, as at that eye line. When we're looking at a total figure height, usually we're about 7.5 heads tall or to 8. And again, it depends on the person. So if you're trying to draw the human figure and you've got like the face in, if you take that measurement and then add about 7.5 to 8, you're going to get the proper height of the person. And that's going to be helpful. Even if you're drawing a character of some sort and you're not exaggerating the features, it's going to give you the right scale for that. So taking those thoughts and those notes, we're going to go to paper then and create our face. We want to fill the space that's here and give ourselves enough room to kind of practice those facial features. So we're going to draw big. So you're going to decide how big your face is going to be. So this is again from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin. So I'm going to give myself quite a bit of room. So I'm going to start here and come down to about here. This is where my oval is going to sit. Most of the time I'm going to set my hand in the center and rotate my wrist, bringing out some really sketchy lines so that I can get a feel for it. Facial features are widest here and then taper in depending on the jawline that you were creating and the facial shape that you want it to have. I'm going to start out with kind of a generic oval. Again, this doesn't have to look like anyone. You could make it look like someone if you wanted to, but the goal is just to draw this in with correct features in the right space. All right, so I've got my face. First step is taking that line down the center. This is my symmetry line. Again, this side will be the exact same width as that. A way to test it is use your pencil as a measuring guide. Take that measurement, bring it over. If it's the same width, then you're good to go. If one side's bigger than the other, then we need to either erase and adjust or bring it back in. Next step is finding halfway. So I'm looking at finding the very half of this. And again, use your pencil as a guide. Measure that, see the scale of it, take it up here. If it's too low or too high, then I can adjust that and move it up. All right, so this is going to be my eye line. So I'm going to bring a really light guideline. Again, if you're drawing a face from scratch, starting on your own, you could draw these and then erase them. So make sure that you draw really light. Remember that you're going to have about an eye width in the center and that the face is about 5 eyes wide. So I should be able to fit 2 more eyes on either side. So double check and make sure that that's true, and then that's the correct space. If not, then we know we need to alter this by making it smaller or making it bigger. So this fits. When we're drawing in our shape, again, we're just drawing this in so that it fits. I'm not too worried about it looking very realistic. I'm going to give myself an almond football size shape, drawing the iris and giving it maybe a pupil. And then the same thing on the other side. I'm going to do this about an eye width length. Measure that out. Almond football shape. Iris pupil. And then adjust as needed. Again, not too worried about this looking exactly the way it should or looking like another person. Just getting facial features in the correct space, in this right place. All right, then we're ready to put in our nose. So I'm going to compare the eye line to the bottom of the chin. About halfway, you're going to give yourself a mark. That's the bottom of my nose. To create that little flared nostril, I'm going to come down from the corner of the eye and put the corners of my nose in. One thing that students like to do is to take that and like draw a line that's in here. We're going to talk about that in our detailed facial features. That line really doesn't exist. That's just a curve and a shadow. It's actually a value. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just drawing contours, actual shapes that I see that kind of stick out. Okay. All right. Next step then is I'm going to compare nose line to bottom of the chin. About halfway is the center of the lips. Keep in mind there's always that little dip that's kind of in between, and then we've got our lips that sit right on top. If I need to know how wide they are, then I'm either going to use the center of the eye or just a little bit left of that. Sometimes students will even bring down a guideline to help to know how far out to go. All right. The other thing that we're looking for then is we're looking for the ears. So I'm looking at them starting at that eye line, curving out from the face, coming in through the earlobe, and that's at about the bottom of the nose. All right, so a few other things. We talked about that the neck then is going to be a little bit below the ear and come out because you need a lot of support for that. And we've got eyelids. Eyebrows start at about the corner of the eye and then come out past. So that gives us an idea of where it's at and a direction. Always looking at the amount of space that's in between them. And then again, this is the top of the head. So I've got some kind of hairline. And also keep in mind that we always have a little bit of hair that's in between. And we also have, if you have longer hair that extends out past that and comes down. All right, so take some time to finish this up, kind of refine it, add your details that would be there. You can erase out your guidelines, fix some things up, and then you can even make it look like a certain person if you would like to.